Are limited research days better than community days? This is the question that I want to explore in this video. Yesterday we had Oddish Limited Research Day, and I have to tell you, I had a lot of fun, and even more fun than I typically would have with a community day. The point of this video is to make the argument for or against limited research days being better than community days. Alright, with that said, let's get right into it. Alright, how's it going everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. I hope you're having a good day and welcome to today's Pokemon GO discussion video. Today I'm going to be talking about whether or not limited research days are actually better than community days when it comes to monthly events. Now, something that I have to make clear is that I'm not suggesting that Niantic completely scrap community days in favor of limited research days. Of course, plenty of players out there will say that comparing limited research days to community days are essentially like comparing apples to oranges, and I totally agree with that. Both of these events have different formats, and they are different forms of gameplay, but in my opinion, I still think it's okay to discuss whether or not one format is more fun than the other. In my personal opinion, I always have a lot more fun with limited research days. The reason for that is because of several things. One in particular, I just feel like the gameplay is just a lot more engaging. But when it comes to community days, it just seems like a mindless grind, almost like a spotlight hour that lasts for 3 hours. I really do not find that kind of gameplay compelling, especially because within the first couple of minutes, I usually pick up a shiny and I just don't feel motivated to keep playing. The only reason why I would actually care about a community day is, of course, if the shiny itself is really good, or if it's because I want to collect XL candy for the particular Pokemon. Other than that, the luster and the excitement lasts for barely a couple of minutes, and I really feel like because of that, limited research days just seem to be a lot better. When it comes to limited research days, you're actively doing a lot of different kinds of gameplay. Like, there's going to be tasks that require you to battle gyms, there's going to be tasks that require you to collect candy from your Pokemon, and of course, catching specific Pokemon in a certain way. And on top of that, getting a shiny during a limited research day just seems to be a little bit more rewarding. Maybe because you have to exert that little bit of extra effort. Once you get a shiny, it actually feels really exciting. But when it comes to community days, all you simply have to do is just click on every single Pokemon that's on screen. Eventually, one of them will be shiny, and that just doesn't feel that exciting to me. Now, another aspect of limited research days that I actually prefer is, of course, getting higher IVs of shinies. Of course, when it comes to community days, you can potentially pick yourself up a Shundo or a high IV, as long as your community is actively calling out Hundos and high IVs in their areas, but it really requires you to go out and drive and just grind it out in a way that sometimes may not be legitimate. So, I really do like the fact that when it comes to limited research days, your chances of getting a really high IV shiny are extremely high. Basically, every shiny that you pick up is going to have an IV floor of 10, 10, and 10, which means your chances of getting a Shundo or a high IV, like a 98%, is going to be incredible. And that's something you just simply do not get with community days. So yeah, because of that, I just feel a little bit more excited when it comes to limited research days because I really care about high IV shinies. That's really what motivates me in the game right now. So the chances of getting high IV shinies this way is something that definitely motivates me to play Pokemon GO on these days. But when it comes to community days, it's something that I don't necessarily expect. And I do find myself feeling burnt out within the first hour because there really is no motivation to continue playing in a community day atop from getting your first couple of shinies. But because limited research days give you the potential for Shundos and high IV shinies, I feel like I just want to play until the very end. And yeah, there are times where I ended up with high IV shinies during limited research days because of the effort that I put in. Now, of course, limited research days do have their limits, and there are a couple of things that Niantic needs to address when it comes to them that I feel like has been hindering them from becoming a universally good event. For example, one of the big limitations with limited research days is, of course, their heavy reliance on having a bunch of Pokestops near you. If you do not live in a populated area where there's just plenty of Pokestops, you're gonna run dry really quickly. The fact that these research days rely so heavily on Pokestops is something that Niantic needs to address. During the pandemic, they did actually do something really cool with limited research days, but after the pandemic ended, they just did not go back to it, which I think is a huge mistake. Basically, on top of getting field research tasks that could award you the potential shiny, there was also a limited timed research chain that would also award you potentially that shiny. So I really feel like they need to go back to that. This kind of hybrid model model of having both a limited timed research alongside all the field research tasks, that would be a good way to make these events a lot more popular. Because as of right now, they're only going to be really good for people who live in urban areas and highly populated areas. For people who live in rural areas or certain suburbs, they're not necessarily going to have as much fun, and that's something that Niantic needs to address right away. Of course, that's an issue that's not necessarily prevalent with community days. You could just simply go to a cluster spawn and collect a whole bunch of shinies that way. You don't necessarily need a bunch of Pokestops near you. Yes, having Pokestops definitely helps, especially when it comes to using lures and different things like that, but in general, you do not need them when it comes to community days. So I really feel like because of that, limited research days typically do not draw universal excitement compared to a typical community day. But in my opinion, if you are able to go to a heavily populated area, you're gonna have just generally a lot more fun than a regular community day. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, I've had some really great luck when it comes to limited research days, and I've really enjoyed them. Like, I really feel like anytime they've had a limited research day, I typically prepare for it and schedule it out because I do not want to miss out on it. They always end up being really fun and rewarding, and I really feel like this is something that Niantic should consider being a monthly event. But in any case, yeah, these are just my thoughts regarding limited research days, especially in comparison to community days. I know there's going to be players out there who are going to completely disagree with everything that I talked about in this video. If that happens to be you, I would love to know your thoughts. Definitely share your comments and let's have a great discussion. And thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. If you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You all make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then do consider checking out the links in the description below. For all my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list. So if you want to interact with me in some way within Pokemon Go, like with remote raids or the friendship system, then do consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Also, if you want to support my channel non-monetarily, you could always do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula, and I'm on the following platforms. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. I am Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.